Have you read the top Goodreads novels of the year? Because I was a little shocked at the winners, just because I read a ton. I'm probably going to finish 50 books this year. Again, if you don't think that's a lot, then you have been brainwashed by the people of BookTube and BookTok. But I read a lot. I read a lot. And I didn't know any of these books. Hanukkah is at the end of the year, and Goodreads Choice Awards are at the end of the year. So I figured now would be a good time to talk about them, right? End of the year, end of the year. That's how it goes. So we're just gonna go ahead and include this as part of Bookaka. Bookaka. Bookaka, bookaka, bookaka. Say that 10 times fast. That is actually really hard. Bookaka, 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 bookaka. Can't do it. Can't do it. I love to read. My husband actually just told me today that I'm the type of person who, when I find a good book, I read all the time and do not come up for air until it's done. And he's kind of right. I was at first like a little embarrassed and I was like, wait, no, I love this about myself. This is great. But at the same time, I read real random books. I don't usually shop for books in traditional bookstores like walk into Barnes and Nobles. I go to secondhand bookstores. So you're gonna find a lot of like old things that you've never heard of or genres that you might not have been interested at first and like then it was interesting after you read it, or find a lot of duds also because there's duds everywhere. But that's why I don't really know what the most popular books are. But the goal today is to check out the top books and see if I would read them because I'm going on my honeymoon soon and I get to buy as many books as I want for my honeymoon. I mean, get to buy. Like, this was our decision. We're going to buy a ton of books for the honeymoon because we both love to read and I need some good books. So let's see. It's literally a book lover's dream vacation, like a private pool and beach, sitting with a book and just reading and hanging out, obviously. Just an aside about Goodreads, I don't really use it. I've like randomly put in books, but just because I've read so many books over my lifetime, sometimes I look at it and I'm just like, if I start tracking now, I'll think this is the only amount of books I've read, but I've read so many more books and it like upsets me that I won't know what they are, and that at this point I've forgotten more books than I remember. That's how long I've been reading. So it's frustrating. Like there are so many times I've picked up a book and been like, this looks so interesting. I'll be halfway through and be like, why does this sound familiar? And then realize I read it already. I'm not against rereading books. I've read so many books multiple times just because I really like them. But at the same time, I just want to know that I'm rereading it and not be like, ooh, a new book, and then realize I already read it. So let's check out Goodreads Choice Awards 2024 in my favorite categories. We'll start with fiction. So, The Wedding People. That's what won the fiction category. I'm just gonna like summarize in my own words what it's about, but a girl named Phoebe, she gets mistaken for a guest at a wedding in an inn, even though she's not. Apparently she just shows up without luggage, just looking for an escape, but that's you gotta read the book to figure out why that's happening. Uh yeah, it seems like a heartfelt book. It's labeled as fiction and romance, along with humor, which is good. I love me some humor. Would I buy it for my honeymoon? No. Would I read it? Yeah. Well, if I got it for free. I mean, wait, that's not a good judge because I would read almost any book if I got it for free. Would I actively choose to borrow it from the library? Yeah, it seems interesting. Like, it would be a bit of a break between heavier books. I think it would be fun. Next, we're skipping historical fiction because I'm not looking at genres I'm not even into. What's the point? So, on to mystery and thriller. Ooh. This is The God of the Woods. That's what won. When a teenager vanishes from her Adirondack summer camp, two worlds collide. She's the daughter of the family that runs the camp, and she's not the first person to vanish. Ooh. Yes, I would totally read this. It looks awesome. Secrets and second chances. Interesting. Can I just say my favorite thing to do is read fantastic book reviews and then just desperately want to read the book based off of that? Like some people, and I just desperately want to befriend the writer. Some people just write such beautiful, eloquent reviews, and it's like, wow. I mean, the first, listen to this book review. I think I want to grade, define, declare, and devour this book beyond terms and genres because no other words can weigh my thoughts and adoration. Like, who are you, beautiful person? Next, we're skipping romance again. I hear a collective groan. Yes, I like my romance in books, but I don't want to read a book just about romance. Again, Will I read it? Yeah, for sure. I'm just not interested in the category that much to go look at it because I'm just not going to be a good judge of it because I just don't read books that are exclusively romance. But romantasy I love. And what is the difference? Um, I love fantasy. And all the romantasy books I've read have a great, great plot. It's like, okay, what did I just read? Fourth Wing. Yes, heavy romance, heavy spice, heavy fantastic plot. I mean, that is a good book. In the words of my husband, he was like, can someone please rewrite this book without the romance? Because it's amazing. There's just way too much of the other stuff. I was like, now I gotta read it. He's actually read it before me, so he's what got me to read it. I'll talk about that in a different video. Oh, but the top book of romantasy is a Sarah J. Maas novel. And it's not the first. Like, it's the third in the series. So I have to start from the beginning. I read actually the first book, like A Court of Thorns and Roses, like way, way back before it was huge. I just found it in the library and I really liked it at the time. And then I just never thought of it again. And then all of a sudden this book got big and I read a summary and I was like, this sounds so familiar. And again, I remembered that I read it, which I wish I had just written it down somewhere. I could have just Googled it, like in my list. Could have just searched it. But I liked it, but I just haven't read any book of hers in the past like 10 years. So I realized, okay, so the book that won is a City series book. I don't know if you've heard of it. So it is a different series than A Court of Thorns and Roses. I do realize that. But I don't want to read the book description because it's just going to make spoilers for me for the first two books. So yeah, and I probably will read these books because they're huge and I love romantasy. So we're gonna skip it. But would I read it? Yes. Next, on to fantasy. This is the best genre of all. This is what raised me. This is how I was defined and formed and created as a child through my love of fantasy books. I might read other things and love other things, but I always come back to good old fantasy. Somewhere Beyond the Sea. It's a sequel to The House in the Cerulean Sea, and I actually wanted to read this so much because I realized it was such a popular book, and I was like, it sounds really good, but I went and put it on hold in the library. So I will be reading this. I'm waiting for it. I should be getting it within a couple of weeks. So yeah, but I can't read this book description either because it's the sequel, right? Next, science fiction. Oh, I technically like science fiction because science fiction is like dystopian fiction, right? It's a future where the world's totally different and there's technology and usually in a bad way, somebody's abusing somebody else. Like, I would describe Hunger Games as science fiction. People call it dystopian fantasy or dystopian fiction, but I think it's also science fiction. So I like that. So I would like this also. The winner of this year is called The Ministry of Time. The little blurb about it is a time travel romance, spy thriller, workplace comedy, and an ingenious exploration of the nature of power and the potentials for love to change it all. Yes, yes, I would read that for sure. Will I buy it for my honeymoon? Maybe, probably not though. Like, I'm not against it. I just kind of looking for a series, I think. What's cool is that the author, Kayleigh Bradley, it's the author's debut novel. So kudos to her for making it to the bestsellers list. Like, that's not easy. And the first review is another amazing example of someone who wrote a novella to get their feelings heard. It's like, go check it out because people's reviews, oh, they're beautiful. I don't usually read reviews about books because if I'm in a secondhand bookstore, I'm just looking for a book and taking it off the shelf. I don't like go on Goodreads to see about the book. Should I be doing that? It's an interesting point. Next is horror, and the only reason I clicked on this was because it was written by Stephen King, and I happen to love Stephen King books. I don't normally just read the genre horror. I don't think about it. I don't look out for them. Nothing against it, actually. This one I wouldn't read because it's a collection of short stories, and I like long books where I live with the main characters for like a while. So, like a darker, that's a book. It's getting a note for me. And I wouldn't never read it. I'm just not interested in pursuing it any further than now. So, okay. Why is there a category of just debut novel? Like, why is that significant? Do we judge differently based on the author's first work? Like, maybe. I don't know. I wouldn't read it because it's a romance, and while I'm sure it's a delightful romance, I'm just not interested. I'm not interested in the audiobook category either. Again, oh, wait. I mean, you could have a favorite audiobook based on like how it's read and stuff. Like, I've read some really great audiobooks and less good audiobooks that just kind of grew on me because I wanted to read the audiobook. Yeah, but eh. Well, let's go check out the audiobook actually. Okay, so in audiobook, Funny Story is what won by Emily Henry. Cool. Again, wouldn't read it. But I am interested in young adult fantasy. Okay, this is a sequel to last year, which like go Rebecca Ross. That's awesome for her. Um,
I hate when they say,
it's like an enemies to lovers book. You just ruined it for me. Now I know that they end up together. Again, could I have guessed it? Yes. Sometimes it's very obvious, when there's smoldering gazes and they hate each other more than makes sense. Like, yes, I do think that they'll end up together. But at the same time, like, I do not want it to be ruined for me for sure. When I read Fourth Wing, I I'm sure it. I mean, no spoilers, but nothing was ruined for me. I was actually like reading, going like the whole time, like, ooh, what's gonna happen? It was very fun. It was a good story. But I'm really against this. I'm super against this. Oh my gosh, I cannot explain how much I'm against this. Would I pick up Ruthless Vows now that I know that it's an enemies to lovers? Like, yes, but it's super annoying, and hopefully I pick it up and have forgotten that by this point. Like, by the point that I read it. Next. Wait, that's it. Because young adult fiction, like, I'm not against it. It's not really looking so exciting right now. I mean, it's giving me bad vibes. I don't like it. Also, it says volume 5, so there's not even a point in me clicking because I will not know anything that's happening. Then nonfiction, memoir, and history and biography. Like, again, will I read these books? Yes. Did I actually read two very fun nonfiction books in recent memory, like memoirs and stuff? Yes. Still not interested in the category. Still not going to bother giving my judgment on it because I just don't want to. And that's the Goodreads Choice Awards of 2024. I didn't read a single one of these books this year. Like, self-defined, obsessed reader, reads all the time, and I did not read any of these popular books this year. I guess now that I'm on social media, 2025, I probably will end up reading the popular books just because, I mean, that's what happens when people are talking about certain books. Like, growing up, I was reading The Hunger Games. Everyone was reading The Hunger Games. I was reading Divergent. I was reading, obviously, Harry Potter. I was reading Twilight. I was reading, like, everything that was coming out huge at the time. Percy Jackson. Like, these were the books I grew up on. Everybody was talking about, of course, I read them. But now that I don't really talk with people so much, I just look for my own books. I don't end up reading books that everybody else is reading. But this year, if I am involved in that, I probably will end up reading books everyone else is reading. Although as a kid, like I had access to the library all the time, and also my friends were all buying books. I just borrow from them as well. Now I do not have that luxury. So we'll see what ends up happening. Please like and subscribe. I am not done with Bookaka, Hanukkah related book content, but I also need to discuss books. I need to discuss books like I need a breath of fresh air on top of a mountain. Just, yes, like this video or don't like it and let me know in the comments what you hated about it. Thanks. The end.